You are now listening to CTR Media Network.
What up, family? CTR Media Network. Yeah. Best in the biz. Yeah. Join the team. CTR is who we are. The media network, that's the best by far. Whether you listen at your home, at your job, in your car, come get the information that's needed above all. Never lasting. Motivational podcasting, giving you the answers to the questions.
This is Olivia Tucker. I should say Dr. Olivia Tucker, and she is leveling up the podcast on CTR Media Network.
That's me. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks to her, my podcast is doing great.
350 million, they tuning in. We in 50 different countries, we all can. And like-minded, find your purpose and your assignment. Come get your fix, your feel, your mental alignment. Get active and speak to the masses. Build your influence, all levels and all classes. Now you know you can monetize and grow. CTR Media Network, start the show. CTR Media Network. CTR Media Network. CTR Media Network. CTR Media Network. CTR is who we are. The media network, that's the best by far, you know. CTR Media Network. CTR Media Network. What up, family? CTR Media Network. Yeah. Best in the biz. Yeah. Join the team. CTR is who we are. The media network, that's the best by far. Whether you listen at your home, at your job, in your car, come get the information that's needed above all. Never lasting. Motivational podcasting, giving you the answers to the questions that you're asking. Serious talks and topics, how to come up and profit, how to better yourself. Your health is here, we got it. Reaching 350 million, they tuning in. We in 50 different countries, we all can. And like-minded, find your purpose and your assignment. Come get your fix, your feel, your mental alignment. Get active and speak to the masses. Build your influence, all levels and all classes. Now you know you can monetize and grow. CTR Media Network, start the show.
The Vera and Tommy Show. The Vera and Tommy Show. The Vera and Tommy Show. The Vera and Tommy Show. Let's talk about it. 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 On the Vera Time Show. Let's talk about it. Yeah.
Hello. Well, this is my second show on Thursday nights, and I am so excited. I have with me a movie star, Mr. Hawthorne James. Hello, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Miss Thomas?
I am great. I am so excited to have you here with me. And what I'm going to do is share with our audience a little bit about Mr. Hawthorne James. As soon as I can pull it up here. Okay. All right, there we go. Okay. Mr. Hawthorne James was born in Chicago, Illinois. He moved to Vandalia, Michigan, where he completed his secondary education. He began his higher education at Holy Cross Junior College. At the completion of his studies at Holy Cross, He was awarded an academic scholarship. Do you hear me? An academic scholarship to continue his studies at the University of Notre Dame, where he received his bachelor's in theater. He was then offered several scholarships for postgraduate degrees at several prestigious universities, including Yale and Cornell. He decided to continue his postgraduate studies at the University of Michigan and received his master's in theater. At both Notre Dame and the University of Michigan, his degrees had an emphasis on acting and directing. Upon graduation, he taught for 2 years at Illinois State University in the theater department. He began his professional career in Minneapolis, Minnesota, during regional theater. Since his move to Los Angeles, he has continued to develop his professional career. He has performed in many productions at the Inner City Cultural Center, where he met many of his colleagues who are well known in the television and film industry, who have been influential in his career and have remained long-standing friends. While in the Inner City Cultural Center, he won the Ira Aldridge acting competition sponsored by actor Ted Lang and was awarded a scholarship to study at the London Shakespeare Academy in London, England. Mr. James has worked at several film companies in various capacities where he honed his skills in the art of movie making. He was employed by ITC Film Company, TriStar Pictures, where he was head of post-production ancillary of markets for 3 years. His responsibilities at TriStar included ensuring the quality of deliverables to all the markets after the initial theatrical release of TriStar films and setting up many screenings for executives and the public. I could go on and on and on. Let me also say that he has starred in numerous feature films and is recognized worldwide. Some of his acting credits include The Five Heartbeats, Stick Up Kid, The System Within, Snoop Dogg's Hood of Horrors, and that was a horror. that movie was full of horror. Speed, Seven, The Color Purple, One Day of Hell, and I could go on and on and on. But one of the things I'm going to do is allow our audience to see some of the work that he has done. I'm not going to share the sound because some of the words may not be appropriate for some of our audience. But what I'm going to do, I am definitely going to share my screen and let you see some of the work that he has done. So let me share this screen and let it roll. Okay. Oh, this was one of your interviews. That's not the one I'm looking for. Okay. Here we go.
You can't keep on like this. Keep on like what? I seen you.
Oh. Okay.
Little Kim can tell you Little Caesar.
Okay. You know what? This is not working. Okay. Let me come back to my. Okay. That was not working. So anyway. Okay. So what I'm going to do, I am going to give you the floor and let you share it. And let me also say, this show is streaming on several Facebook pages, on several YouTube channels, on LinkedIn as well. And it will be replayed over and over and over again. Okay. So I wanted you to, and it will also be a podcast on iHeart and several other podcast platforms. But in the meantime, I'm going to give you the floor and let you share with our audience more about Hawthorne James.
Alrighty. You throw me a question. What do you want to know? What do you
All right,
want
I
to
want
know?
to. Okay, one of the things I want to know. I want to know about your childhood. I looked at looking at your history and your bio and your education and the fact that you received academic scholarships versus athletic scholarships. That is awesome. And so I'd like for you to just kind of share a little bit about who you are, your background, what drove you to want to be in theater and
Well,
directing and all of that.
well, I was born and raised in Chicago. I'm a South Side baby. And I went to Catholic school all my life, except for 2 years in Michigan, the last 2 years of high school in Michigan. And I have, there were 8 of us, and I have 2 older sisters and an older brother who are extremely popular. So by the time the 4th Hawthorne came along, the nuns weren't very friendly, et cetera, for another one. So it was like I was kind of lost in the wilderness somewhere. And then there was a nun named Sister Aquanette who put on a kindergarten play every year. And I got to be in this play. And all it was I playing a Native American, just going around in a circle talking about woo, 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 woo. But I wanted, there were some guys that she chose to beat the drums. And I wanted to beat the drums, but I wasn't that guy. But going around in a circle doing that, there's a couple things that happened. I realized that I could do that better than any of the other guys. And secondly, I realized finally somebody was paying attention to me. So I think I guess I was around 6 years old. I think that's where it started with theater for me. And then throughout the years, I would do a play here, play in grade school and stuff. I played ball, specifically baseball. And then when I got to high school, I did another play. And the priest in high school did 1 or 2 plays every year. He either did Hamlet or he did Raisin in the Sun. He alternated. My first year there was he was doing Raisin in the Sun, and freshmen weren't allowed to be in the play. And that's another little story that I won't go into. But my second year, I got to be Hamlet. I got to be in Hamlet.
Okay.
And the senior who was playing Hamlet, I would go to rehearsal and I would watch him and I would automatically say, that's not the way you're supposed to be doing it. This is the way you're supposed to be doing it. So even as a sophomore in high school, I was watching. There's something instinctively I had about performing. But a quick story about that. My mother and my grandmother, who supported me, saw everything I ever did. They even flew to California to watch plays.
Wow.
But when she saw, I played in Hamlet. I played the one of the guards that opens up the play, and I think I played Bernardo. And I had the first line in the play, and so I opened my mouth and I said that line. And my mother always told the story that she leaned over to my grandmother after she heard me speak, and she said to my grandmother, "Is that James Herbert?" Because of the fact that it was so clear and distinctive. And apparently I mumbled as a child.
Oh my.
And nobody could understand what I was saying. But when I hit that stage, it became magic for me. So all of these things started to gel for me, and then going to, doing it. When I moved to Michigan, I was an academics, A student in Chicago when those nuns were jumping on me. Then we moved to Michigan my last 2 years of high school, and my grades went into the toilet.
Why do you think that happened?
Because I was in public school for the first time of my life, and those white teachers did not care about me.
Okay, all right.
They didn't expect me to excel,
and see,
and I became something of a class clown. Okay, I'm sorry. What were you saying?
Well, you know what? you are a perfect example of what can happen to our young Black boys when in public school.
Mm-hmm.
You were in private school, in Catholic school, they honored you, they revered you, they allowed you to be yourself, to be expressive. And that's when you learned that this was this talent, you had this gift.
Yeah.
You had this gift. And then you get into public school. And I do need to acknowledge some of my guests that are listening here. So let me, Dr. Tina, she's telling people like, follow, and share and subscribe. Please do. And she says, thank you for sharing. And this is great hearing your personal story. Yes, yes. Because so often we see movie stars and we think, oh, they've got a great life and they've had, there's not been any issues or any problems. But you are a Black man. So being a Black
Absolutely.
man, you have had your share, I'm sure, of experiences. And Cool Gamer, she says, hello, everyone. And I'm sure that you have had your share and what you experienced in public school.
Oh yeah. Being it's just, you know what a Black man is. And I was in Chicago and I've experienced it all my life. It doesn't stop with age. I've been stopped by the police, 4 or 5 years ago twice because I'm a Black man.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop. It doesn't matter how much money you make. It doesn't matter your educational. It doesn't stop. It just keeps going and going and going. And my life has been fighting this nonsense. People ask all the time because I've given up millions of dollars, to be honest, because I'm not going to be your buffoon. I don't care. My soul is worth more to me than any money that you could put in my pocket. Your money means nothing to me, as opposed to being a man when it comes to helping my people. But see, the little things that happened to me, it's like when I went to junior college, somehow or another, because my grades went down to probably C minus. And my father, who had heart problems, one of the reasons, I think the main reason we moved to Michigan was because I have two younger brothers who are loony. And that's when the Blackstone Rangers were getting ready to get real hot. And I was a Ranger for a hot minute. And they said, oh, no. So they moved us up to
Ranger. Is that a gang?
Yes.
Okay, I'm not familiar.
That's Jeff Fort, and Jeff Fort at one time was probably the most powerful man in Chicago, more powerful than Daley. He had kids marching up and down the street.
Oh, wow.
As Rangers. If he had been able to use that power, use that knowledge, to use that mentality that he had in a positive way, oh boy. And they knew that. So they got rid of him because he was a powerful man. And my brothers were getting ready to be a part of that organization. My parents said no. They moved us up to Michigan. They had a house. My parents had bought a house up there 40 years, 30 years before. And they had rented it out. So they moved us up to this village in Michigan by the name of Vandalia. And then I went to high school in Cassopolis. But when I went to, I don't know what it was. My father had heart problems, so he would go to South Bend, Indiana to go to the hospital occasionally. And one day he went a different route, and there was a sign at Holy Cross, and they had just opened up the school the next fall to lay students. Holy Cross is a student for Catholic brothers, and they were just opening it up to lay students. And somehow or another, he got in there because my father had the gift of gab. And he talked to Brother John Driscoll into taking me into that college. Well, there's so many stories. I'm trying to keep everything short. But one day, my first month there, one of the priests was up there doing something at the chalkboard. And me being this funny guy.
Were you the only Black there?
Yeah, actually, yeah. I hadn't really thought about that too now because there was only like 8 of us in that first class, eight lay students. There was, like I say, the Holy Cross brothers were there. In case anybody doesn't know what a brother is, they are not quite priests.
Okay.
They are religious. They're a religious order, but they're not priests. So that's the difference. But I said something, and the class started laughing. And he turned around and he looked at me. And he didn't have to say a word. I just looked, and that was the end of my funny days.
Oh, wow.
He immediately let me know, this isn't a game up here, partner. This is serious. I went back to my days in Chicago with the nuns and the priests in Chicago. And I realized I got to get serious now. And I came out of that. And what happens is my mother worked for Social Security. So she would drive down to 30 miles. It was 30 miles between Vandalia and South Bend. She drove down 30 miles to go to work every day, one way. So we would drive together my 2 years at Holy Cross. God bless her. She did it for I think, 25 years herself, driving to work 60 miles round trip.
Wow.
Because my father had heart problems, so he wasn't working. My mother worked, but my dad taught us how to cook, how to clean. We did all that with my dad.
Wow.
But one classes generally stopped around 1 o'clock. So I was there by myself, or 3 o'clock, somewhere between 1 and 3. So I was there by myself. All the other students were gone. And I was sitting in the cafeteria, not the lounge, not the cafeteria. We didn't even have a cafeteria, but the lounge. And Brother Johns, whose office was right off the lounge, one day came out. This was my second year, second semester. And he said, could you come in my office? And so I went into the office and I sat down across from him. And he looked at me and he said, how would you like to go to Notre Dame? And the first thing in my mind was, yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah, okay, whatever. And so out of my mouth came, Brother John, I don't have the money. He said, don't worry about the money. I said, okay, yeah, I would like to go. And he said, okay. And that was the end of it. If I remember correctly, that was the whole conversation. So I got up and I left. And it stayed in the back of my mind, but I kept putting it off. Like, this ain't going to happen. It's not going to happen. I don't know how long it was. Maybe a month, 2 months later, I was in the lounge by myself again. He came out, he said, come in. I need you to come in my office. And I went into the office, sat down. He said, all he said was, you have a meeting with the Dean of Admissions on Friday to Notre Dame.
Oh my God.
And I said, oh, okay. And that's pretty much how that conversation went. So I went that Friday. I went to the across the street. Notre Dame is almost literally across the street. I went over to, and I think the guy's name, Dean of Admissions, was O'Connell or O'Donnell. It's an Irish name. I can't remember exactly. But I sat down across from him, and he had this, this folder with some of my stuff in it, I guess. And he looked through it and he looked at it. And then he looked up at me and he said, okay, you're in. And it was like, I said, well, I don't know if I can afford this. He said, don't worry about it. You're going to have a scholarship. You're going to have a work study program. You're going to have loans. And that's how you're going to do this.
Now, let me ask you, that happened as a result of the professor that told you to be more serious?
Well, that was all part of it.
Right.
That was all part of the program.
Yes.
It was all part of me growing up. And I'm gonna tell you something for real. There was a white guy, and he wanted to become a drug dealer. And he was at Holy Cross. He was one of the first in the class. And so, and this is something I've shared before. He came to me to ask me. He said, "Would you work for me? I need a bodyguard." And I was like, "Yeah, no problem. Yeah." Well, I would go to his house and stay overnight, and with a gun under my pillow, and sitting right by the front door. And I knew that if somebody came through that front door, somebody was dying. And it wasn't going to be me. So I did this, I don't know how long, maybe for a couple of weeks. One morning, I woke up and I picked the pillow up and I looked at that 30, I don't know if it's 38 or 45, I can't remember. I remember it was pretty fancy. But I looked at it and I said to myself, are you out your effing mind? Do you know you're in college? What is wrong with you? What are you doing? Put that pillow back down, walked out that door, and never looked back.
Wow.
But it took all that time for what my parents have been trying to teach me to go from the back of my head to the front of my head.
Wow.
Those are things that I did there, but for the grace of God.
Yes.
So I never jump on these kids and say, oh, some of them are just, loony and you can't help them. But most of them are just, the message just hasn't gotten to them yet. So I never condemn them. I try and help them when I can because I was there. I understand.
Do you speak to different groups and schools and things of that nature? As
much as I can. If I'm on the road doing a play or something or whatever it is, and someone comes to me and asks me, can you come to my class? I've been to prisons. I've been to juvenile facilities. I've been to grade schools, high schools. Anytime I can do that. I've talked in front of churches. Anytime I will do that gladly. And
the thing is, you had a couple opportunities where you could have gone the other way.
Oh, yeah.
And yet, because of how you were raised and the values that were placed in you from your parents, and the fact that you were open to doing the right thing and understood that you could go left or you could go right. Mm-hmm. And you chose to go the right way.
Oh, yeah. I've done plenty of stupid stuff, robbing and all, that'll all be in the book. But I never, it was all little stuff, but which could have definitely landed me in the clink for 10, 15 years.
Yes.
And it's like when my parents gave me a choice because I was a sophomore to move to Michigan or stay in Chicago and stay with my grandparents. And I said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I was running for class representative. And I said, if I win, I'll stay. If I lose, I'll go to Michigan. I lost by 1 vote.
Wow.
All of the guys that I hung around with, and I know I would have been there with them, none of them graduated from high school.
See?
And I know I would have been there with them.
See?
So yeah, 1 vote changed my life.
See, God has been with you throughout your life. And actually, he has led, guided, and directed you when you probably didn't even realize what was going on.
No, I didn't know. I tell you nothing about those God moments. This has to do with Color Purple. And I told this story to somebody last night, matter of fact. When I won the Ira Aldridge acting competition, well, I was still at TriStar. I was working at TriStar, and when I was at TriStar, I was one of the highest Black executives in Hollywood at that time. Wow. That was my last 9-to-5 job. But I was walking past this white woman's secretary desk, and she picked up this book and she said, "You need to read this." And she handed it to me, and it was The Color Purple. So I stood there and I read 2 pages of it, and I looked at it and said, "I hate this." And I put it back on the desk and never thought about it again. Well, when I won the Ira Aldridge acting competition, the Reuben Cannon, who was a big-time casting director in Hollywood, Black guy, he was one of the judges for the finals. So a week or so later, my agent called me and said, Reuben called. He wants you to come in and audition for The Color Purple. So I went into audition and I tried to be bad. I honestly, God, I tried to be bad. My agent called me a week later. She said, Spielberg saw the tape. He wants you to come in for a second audition. I went in and tried to be twice as bad.
What did did you do? What exactly did you do?
I don't remember what I did, but whatever it was, whatever the little lines or whatever it was we supposed to read, I just tried to be bad because I really didn't like the book at all from what I read.
Right.
So my agent called me up about a couple of weeks later. She said, "You got the job." Oh God. So I made a lot of money. I made more money than I know than I'd ever made in my life because I worked for a week. And we worked almost, sometimes no less than 12 hours, sometimes 16 hours for that week. So I made money. So I left TriStar in 96, I think it was. And a year later, I didn't have a job. I wasn't acting that much and I wasn't being paid. I'd be thinking to myself, how am I going to pay my rent for this month? I just didn't know. I'm about to be homeless. And I went down to my mailbox and there was a residual check from The Color Purple.
Wow.
And that happened like 2 or 3 times.
Wow.
And I always say that was God. And I'm not the most religious person in the world. Let's get this straight. I believe there's something out there who made this insanity. That I do believe. But what that entity is, I'm not sure. But I say God was telling me, shut up and take this job I'm trying to give you, dummy. So, my life has been full of those little things.
Yes. Yes.
As an older man, I was, if it wasn't for my wife now, I'd have been out on the street again. Because you have to remember, I'm not Tom Cruise. I work all the time, but I don't get paid because this color right here, see the skin color?
Yeah.
The skin color don't change.
Let's talk about that.
So your value is not as high as the others.
And you've been in a lot of movies, and you've been in some gangster movies. You've been in, some all kinds of movies. And so you mentioned about the fact that you don't want to just be playing any kind of role. But I can imagine when you first started, you kind of had to. Are there roles that you did choose that you probably would not have at another point in time? And
you know what? I have to say no. There's not one thing that I have ever done that I'm ashamed of. Not one thing. I'll tell you from the very first thing that my very first movie was with Rudy Ray Moore, and it's called The Disco Godfather. And I played Stinger Ray. I was the lead bad guy in that movie. And I made $50 a day. And I think I worked like 2, maybe 3 days, but I think it was 2. I thought I was rolling in the dough. I never made $50 in my life in one day. So from ever since that first movie on, there's nothing I'm ashamed of that I have done.
That's good.
Yeah, I'll tell you, watch anything that I've ever done because it was the best I could do at that time. And yes, I've gotten better, I hope. And yes, I keep working, but I've been fortunate in the fact that I haven't done anything that I'm ashamed of.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I want you to share with our audience some of the disappointments, some of the when you clearly knew that these things were happening because you were, 1, a man, and 2, a Black man. Can you share some of your experiences with that and how that shaped you and how that molded you?
Well, see, when I was at TriStar, it goes all the way back to when you're a kid, of course. But one thing, when I was at TriStar, I'm a boat rocker. And I always have been. Little story, everything that TriStar was doing came across my desk. I saw everybody's salaries, producers, directors of every film. I saw the film. I read the scripts before anybody else did, because if you're in post-production, you really have to have that kind of knowledge in order to do your job correctly. So I saw things happening. There was one film called Let's Get Hairy. And what TriStar was doing was they a young white boy, his very first movie, doing a semi-lead, would be making $250,000.
What?
A black guy who had more experience in the same kind of role, like well, we did. What's the name of the movie? The Last Dragon. This guy, the guy who played the bad guy in that movie. I can't think of it. He went to same high school I went to in Chicago, but they gave him scale. And and matter of fact, we did our first movie together. He was in Disco Godfather too. He's passed away about 10 years ago.
Mm.
And he was younger than I am, which tells you something right there. But he worked all the time. I mean, he did lead roles and stuff. So that bothered me. And what happened was this film called Let's Get Harry. What they would do, what TriStar would do was, you read the script and they have a black character who had a pretty good role in that. When they produced the film, that black character was now white.
Oh, wow.
They did that all the time.
Oh, wow.
So what you're saying to writers, don't bring me black characters in here, because if you keep bringing these black characters in there, you're not going to be writing for us.
Wow.
So they're letting you subtly know what's happening. So, but there was this one film called Let's Get Harry. And it was about these guys whose brother got kidnapped in South America. This one guy's brother got kidnapped in South America. And he got his friends together. The government wouldn't go get him. So he got his friends together, 4 other guys, and they were all plumbers. And they said, we're going to go get my brother. And so they all want to go get my brother. And the black guy in there was one of the 4 guys was the black guy. And I saw the salary that he was going to be making. And it was $250,000. I jumped up and said, yeah, this brother didn't ready to get paid. Yeah. But the name was familiar. And I kept thinking, I don't know who this brother is. And I kept thinking. A week went by and I couldn't put a face to that name. So finally, I walked up to the vice president of production secretary and I said, who is this guy that's in this movie? And she said, oh, you know him. He's the lead singer of the Eagles, Glenn Frey.
Wait a minute. Glenn Frey is not a black man.
No, that's what they did again. They took the black guy character and turned him into a white guy and paid Glenn Frey $250,000.
Wow.
And so my heart just went, yeah. I called. Now that was the straw that broke the camel's back. See, this is what I'm talking about. I'm a boat rocker. I called the NAACP and I left them a message and said, I have all the information. I have people's salaries. I have what they do with scripts, et cetera, et cetera. Nobody picked the phone, so I left a message that said, please call me. I'm sorry. JB, let me call you back. I'm on an interview. I said, please call me back. Well, I waited a week and they never called me. So I called them back and I'm ready to I'm putting my neck on the line here again. I'm ready to give them this information. Nobody ever called me.
Wow.
That's why, that's why I have a tough time dealing with the NAACP, honestly, because I know what the organization sometimes is about. And I'm putting my neck on the line, ready to. Let me tell you another quick story about this, about my boat rock. And I don't mean to be
go
like,
ahead. Talk. This is great.
I at that time, nobody was acknowledging Martin Luther King's holiday in Hollywood. It was a federal holiday, but nobody got to take it off. Well, I decided this is wrong. So I sat down and I wrote a memo to the owners of the company, the presidents, the vice presidents, to all the big shots in the company. And I said, you ought to respect your black employees and we should have the day off. The company should give the day off. There were 2 black secretaries. I was the only black male there, but there were 2 black secretaries. And I went to them and I asked them, would you sign this? they looked at me like I had grown three horns on my head. Are you out your mind? So they didn't sign it. They wouldn't
Oh
sign it.
my goodness.
So
Out of fear.
out of fear. So I signed, I sent it off to everybody myself. I said, to hell with it, So I sent it off. Well, I don't know how long it was later, a week, 2 weeks later, they sent the memo back to the whole company. Any employee that wishes to take Martin Luther King's birthday off can do so with pay. Well, once one company does it, then the rest of them do it. So the following year, all the companies did the same thing. And eventually, 3-4 years later, it became a Hollywood day off, period, shutdown day, just like the rest of the holidays.
Audience, you need to clearly hear this. If we don't say something, nothing will happen.
Well, let me continue on with this. This is
Go
the
ahead.
part about this. So 3-4 years later, this is long after I've left TriStar. 3-4 years later, the studio shut down. Now they still, of course, some films are still shooting on that day because that's the way they do on all holidays. You got to get paid for it, but this became the holiday, just like Christmas, New Year's, all the rest of it.
Yeah.
We shut it down. Okay. In 94, I produced a short film. I think it was it 94? I think it was, I can't remember. It was after about 8-9 years after I did TriStar. I was producing a short film and took the whole crew up to Idlewild, which is in the mountains outside of LA, above Palm Springs, for those who don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But we were shooting in the mountains, and it was about two sisters. And you can see this short film on YouTube. It's called Remember Me with a Question Mark.
Okay.
You can. I have 2 films on YouTube. Remember Me with the Question Mark and Lisa Trotter. But anyway, okay. So I took the whole crew up there on a Friday night, and we shot Saturday, all day Saturday and Sunday. Well, some of the crew had just gotten back into LA on Sunday morning. Some of the crew was still on the highway going back in. My girlfriend at that time and a couple other guys. Matter of fact, the guy who called me just now, he was working with me, a good friend of mine, James Burks, and he and Cheryl were on their way down the mountain, and me and my dog. And I have an Akita, the first Akita I have. I have another Akita now that you saw.
Right.
But I had one back then. All of a sudden, the whole place where we were staying, where we were shooting, started rocking and rolling. I had never been in an earthquake harder than this in my life. And LA has earthquakes all the time.
Yes,
but
I'm
talking about the whole cabin was moving, and my dog and I were looking at each other. What's going on? But I thought to myself, okay, it was in the Coachella Valley, because in the Coachella Valley where Palm Springs is, they're always having little bitty earthquakes. So Monday morning, I had to return equipment. So I drove the truck back to LA, and nobody was on the highway. Nobody's on the streets.
And that's unusual in LA.
That's highly unusual.
Highly.
All the places that I was supposed to be returning equipment to were closed. So to this day, I don't have any idea exactly how bad it was, because that earthquake was centered not in Coachella Valley, but in LA, in Northridge, in the valley. But anyway, okay. So it was a bad earthquake, bad earthquake. So cut to 2-3 years later, my girlfriend walked up to me. She said, "Do you know how many lives you saved?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" And she looked at me. She said, "Do you know how many lives you saved?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" That earthquake happened on Martin Luther King's birthday. How many people would have been in those?
Oh, wow!
In those buildings that collapsed, in those parking garages that collapsed.
Wow!
How many people would have been there because they would have had to have worked on that day?
Wow!
Because of the fact that you sent that memo. She said, "How many lives did you?" And that freaked me out.
Yeah.
That really freaked me out.
Wow.
So never tell me what one person can do.
Exactly. And you know what? And again, audience, When you see something that's not right, say something. I remember I was, and I just shared this story a couple days ago. I used to go to Pearl Vision for my glasses. And every time I went in there, I never saw any Black people working. And I have been going in there for years. And so this one day I went, I said, it's really amazing to me. I've been coming in here to get my glasses for years, and I have never seen a Black person working here. And they said to me, oh, well, they don't apply. And so the next time I went in there, guess what? They had hired a Black person. And so a lot of times injustices happen because we don't say anything.
Yes.
And we got a couple of comments here. Let's see. Diane said it was God who spoke to you. And then he says, regarding your story and how you saved these lives, to God be the glory. Absolutely. And so you saved lives just because you spoke up.
Yeah.
And you saw an injustice.
I learned these things, and just one more quick one. I did a film with Alec Baldwin called Heaven's Prisoners. And they use that N-word. There are two things that I don't do. My line in Hollywood. This is my line. I don't use the N-word, and I've lost a lot of money because of that. And I don't put on a dress. Those are my lines. So, and I'm not asking you to have my line. I'm asking you to have your line. Just have a line, people.
Right.
At least that, this is my line. And I recognize that. I don't preach about it. I don't tell people what they should say, what they should do. That's on you. But at least have something that you won't do.
A deal breaker.
I was doing our audition, and this Alec Baldwin's character had this bait shop in New Orleans, and he had a Black man that was his partner in the bait shop. So I'm the bad guy, not Stingray. Stingray was Disco Godfather. I can't remember the guy's name right now. But anyway, I'm the bad guy. So in the audition, I said, I'll kill your wife, I'll kill you, and I'll kill that old N that works with you. Well, in the audition, I said, and I'll kill that old Negro. Okay. Well, I wound up getting the job. So the first day, and it was a long speech. I was talking to Alec on the telephone. So it was the first day of the shoot, and this is a big scene for me. And so I said, what I did was, I substituted instead of Negro. I said, I think I used the word bastard for the first take. And it's so funny. This is the day OJ was having this car chase. And so they had the TV on the counter in the laundry that I owned. And so in between takes, I'm watching OJ go down the freeway. It's just bizarre. But anyway, so the first take I think I used bastard. And the second take I think I used the MF. And I thought to myself, and all the time I said, I don't care. If they don't like it, they can send me home. So after the second take, I saw the director out of the corner of my eye walking towards me. And I said, okay, this is it. If they send me home, they send me home. But and sure enough, my instincts were right again. He walked up to me and he said, Hawthorne, about that word, I looked at him, I said, I don't use it. And he looked at me, he said, oh, okay, use bastard. And he walked away. Well, see, that taught me once again, it reinforced, if you don't stand up for yourself, they don't have any respect for you.
Absolutely. Oh my God. And I hope, listening audience, hear this clearly. Don't do things just because you think you're going to please somebody.
No.
Don't. You need to know what your deal breakers are. And you need to be clear about them.
Yeah.
And don't allow other people to dictate and determine just because you need a job, just because you're trying to make it in life. You don't have to. I mean, I've lost things because I stood up, and so I understand and know what that means, but we cannot work out of fear.
No, there it is. You can't be fearful throughout your whole life. You can't work out what master gonna say about me if I don't do the. I don't know what master gonna think. I don't.
Right.
God Almighty, come
Right,
on.
exactly. And Diane, she said, and she's my aunt, by the way, she says, I call those words colorful metaphors, okay? And then she says, know your worth.
Yes, know your worth.
And she meant no. Right, we got
Yeah,
it.
I know. Yeah,
We got it. Okay,
I
know
figured,
your,
Diana. I figured you could spell, so don't worry about it.
yes, know your worth. And don't
Yeah.
allow other people to determine your worth.
Never, 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 never.
And you know what? We've done 50 minutes. I have not done one commercial, and I
Oh,
need to do that.
okay.
So, oh my God, this has been so awesome. Okay, I didn't want to break to do any commercials. I did not, but let me do this.
Diamonds and emeralds and pearls, oh my. Diamonds and emeralds and pearls, oh my. Sapphire Emerald Magazine truly knows the gifted and talented people.
Sapphire Emerald is a magazine that represents the diversities of the world's news. We believe in presenting people in a positive light and helping the public see them in a different perspective. We report on entertainment, nonprofit organizations, film producers, actors, actresses, culinary arts, fashions, and the positive principles of understanding art. Our mission is to bring people's spectacular talents into focus and allow them to sparkle like the precious emeralds, diamonds, pearls, and sapphire stones.
We are having an event February 24th to the 26th in the beautiful city of Miramar Cultural Center, only 25 minutes away from Miami. Founder Kessa Guden and Commissioner Maxwell B. Chambers of the City of Miramar is putting on a huge event called a Global Awakened Summit and VIP Gala. We would love for you to be there. This is an event you don't want to miss. We have over 35 speakers, each speaker's worth ranging from $3,000 to see them live in person. But at the Global Awakened Summit, you can get your ticket now for only $97. Call 725-200-1773 now or on our website. We look forward to seeing you there. www.globalawakenedevents.com.
CTR Media Network has amazing opportunities to expand the visibility of business owners, entrepreneurs, authors, coaches, and podcasters on our platform. Would you like to be interviewed on any of our podcasting shows? Where we're booking right now, so go to ctrmedianetwork.com. Would you like to have an ad in our upcoming Podcast Revolution magazine? Well, simply go to our website and place your ad today. We also have commercial placement opportunities. We would love to play your commercial during the airing of our CTR Media Network Live and the Tina Ramsey Show. We would love to partner with you. If you feel that your business is a right fit, contact us about our sponsorship opportunities. CTR Media Network has a variety of different opportunities to fit every budget. So reach out to us by going to ctrmedianetwork.com and book the appropriate ad for yourself today.
All right, let me kind of speak on these things right quick, and then I want to get back to my guests. All right, CTR Media Network, if you are a podcaster and you want to perfect what it is that you do, by all means, contact CTR Media Network. Sapphire and Emeralds Magazine, they are doing some awesome things, and I want you to be in touch with them. And I need for you to also please support the Vera Thomas Show. I can't do what I do without your support. So you can go to Cash App, $ and still great, or PayPal or Zelle, the Vera Thomas Show 1117 at gmail.com. I need your support. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel and like my Facebook page. Please. All right. So let me get back to my guests. Yes.
Well,
All right.
I was just thinking about what the school says about support you, and I want to say to you how important. I want to reiterate to you in case nobody has told you this enough, how important you are by doing this, because you have to remember when I was a child, there were three stations: ABC, NBC, CBS, and occasionally you might get PBS. They could control every thought process that you had. They could tell you. Remember, I'm one of those people that when we were outside, somebody would run outside and say, "There's a Negro on TV," and everybody would run inside to see the Negro on TV. Well, now there's no excuse for you not knowing who Mansa Musa is. There's no excuse for you not to know who Lucy, the first woman, is. There's no excuse for you not to know who built the pyramids. There's no excuse for you not to know those black folks from the south of Egypt. And forgive me, I the names, et cetera, et cetera. There's who did great things.
Yes.
In those days. There's no excuse for you not to know that Christopher Columbus's navigator was an African who had been here before. You don't go out and hire somebody on a dangerous mission that has never done it before. He had already, and when Columbus and all the rest of them got here, and they in their diaries they described the people who were here as Africans. There's no excuse for you not to know that in Central America they have statues of Africans predated before Columbus was a twinkle in his great grandmother's eye.
Yeah.
There's no excuse for you not to know that up and down the east coast of the U.S. were African peoples, and even the word Manhattan comes from the African word Manhattos. The language that was used by Native Americans on the East Coast and the Caribbean, that's all African. You can take a rowboat from the west coast of Africa to the east coast of the Americas because the currents go that way. So there's no excuse for you not knowing your history. Your history did not begin with slavery. You have a long history. Everybody wasn't a king or queen, but everybody had that dignity.
Yes.
Everybody belonged to someone.
Yes.
To
Yes.
a nation, a tribe, or whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
We go way back, predating. The Moors taught white people how to take a bath. Get real. Because before they thought baths were infectious, and they taught them how to change their clothes for each season. They taught them math and science, astronomy. There's no reason in this day and age, and because people like you who are doing these podcasts, I want you to know how important you are, because they can't keep information away from you anymore.
No more.
You choose to be ignorant.
Amen. Amen. And Darlene, she says, awesome. And Sapphire Emerald Magazine says, wow, yes. Oh my God. People need to hear what you're saying. And I appreciate you saying what you said about me. I do, very much so. And we just got to, where there no vision, people perish. And we perish for lack of knowledge. Yes. So we need to know, and what they're trying to do with this critical race theory and trying to keep everybody from knowing the history of this country, the true history of this country. And as long as they keep holding it back, we will continue to go through the stuff that we're going through with the hatred, the bitterness, the anger, and all that stuff that's going on. I'm passionate about this stuff. We need to know what we can do to make a difference, each of us. And Hawthorne is doing it. He's doing it through movies. He's doing it by going into schools and churches and community organizations and talking about his life story and the impact that it's had on him, and the impact that it's had to the point where it can make a difference in some young people's lives.
Yes.
Oh my God. We ran out of time. Oh my
I want to say
goodness.
this one thing. And this is
Okay.
how I live my life. This one thing. This is how I live my life. I don't be free till you be free. And I mean that.
Amen. None of us are free until all of us are free.
Yes.
None of us are free until all of us are free. And we need to be freed by the renewing of our minds.
Yes.
Okay. This has been awesome. Listen, I'm going to close us out. I would like for you to hold on and if you could give me a minute.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, listen, audience, thank you so much. And this will be replayed over and over again. In fact, I'm getting ready to put it on Instagram as soon as I download it. It's going on Instagram. So listen, thank you very much. It has been an honor and a pleasure to have you here with me today. And so, listening audience, I will see you next week, and we are going to continue to talk about Black history and the meaning of it and why it is so important that it's not just Black history in February, but it needs to be Black history throughout the year.
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, thank you very much. And I will talk with you guys soon. Bye-bye.
The Vera Talent Show. The Vera Talent Show. The Vera Talent Show. The Vera Talent Show. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk